Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to Robert Indries. Um, Welcome to the podcast. My name is Nicolette. I'm the creator for the podcast. You're worthless. Read that again. Juxtaposition of your very soul. So sorry, the title is a bit long, but it has some catchphrase to it. Yeah. I just want to check with you. Like, what was your first impression when I don't know if you have seen that podcast or listened to an episode of the podcast. What was your first
Um,
take?
my first take is a focus on um, people being mindful of who they are and their self-worth, because many times people don't do things, or they do things that they shouldn't because of fear. They don't
Yes.
have faith, right? Either faith in the universe or faith in themselves or faith in things in general, right? And so that lack of faith, when there's a lack of faith, there's always fear. You have either one or the other. You can't have both, right? And
Yeah.
so that's the train of thought in which I was going when I was reading and seeing episodes.
I think you hit every single point of that. Thank you so much for actually showing interest in on my podcast. And I think when I saw your profile, I was actually very happy because the idea of the podcast is not just about that, but also how do we help people, help the listeners out there to move into the space of, if they want to start business. And I think you're one good example of that. So I'll let me give the listeners an introduction about yourself
Sure.
and then we can move on to the
Beautiful.
yeah. Okay. So hi all, we have Robert here. He has actually helped an empire of 10 businesses generate seven figures every year. He has traveled over 100,000 miles across the world, visited 17 countries to date. I don't know if the statistics still stand. You can let me know later. He has spoken in front of thousands of people in three different languages. Okay, that one I need to delve deep because I do speak a couple of languages as well. And then, well, as well as maintaining a loving relationship with his partner and also close family and friends. So Robert here has to believe that we can all live outstanding lives filled with happiness and love, but at the same time leaving positive impact to the world better than how we found it, right? So let's strip that introduction and story about yourself one by one.
Mhm.
So Robert, where are you currently based actually?
So up until recently, we were based in the UK, where we stayed for over half a decade, and at one point, a little over a year ago, we decided to move outside of the UK. We had several reasons, but the main reason was taxes.
Oh,
So
okay.
in our income bracket, we had to pay 45% taxes. So
Whoa, okay.
if imagine if you give yourself $1 million, you only keep half a million.
Half,
Half
yeah.
you give, and so it's a lot, and it's not fair. I don't believe that's fair. The reason why you would go into a democratic country is to avoid things like that, right? I mean, I work two, three, four, five times harder than others, right? And I don't work
Yes,
harder so that the people that don't want to work get, benefits off
the
of my
benefits from
salary,
that.
right?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
want that, right? It's just not fair. I'm
And
all for charity. I'm all for philanthropy and so on and so forth. But let's help the people that actually need help, right? Not the
yeah,
people that don't want to work today, and they still want a salary today. So there are very clear differences in that regard. And at this point in history, right now, again,
hmm,
when we're recording this podcast, in the future it might change, but right now, the UK is very poor at spending taxpayers' money, right? They're very bad at it. They're spending a lot of it frivolously. And so,
mm,
um, if they would use the money properly, then I wouldn't have a problem. But the issue is that, you know, my wife had at one point, because we were discussing about leaving for a while now because of the tax situation and so on. And so my wife at one point, she's been paying taxes for 9 years or something like that. So it's basically literally six figures in taxes that she paid, right? And so she went
Whoa,
to
that's a
she
lot.
yeah, so she went to the hospital because she needed some things done. She was feeling poorly, and so she went and she got an appointment for 6 weeks later. Imagine, right?
Wow.
So
Yeah,
after paying hundreds of thousands of dollars
in
to the
Texas.
government, you
Yeah,
get the
yeah.
6 week timeline. I'm like,
What
for
is
half a
this?
million dollars, I'm going to build my own clinic and get treatment
Yeah,
whenever I want treatment. It's just,
exactly. You can
um,
just fly your own specialists, your doctors, and then just set it up.
of course,
Yeah.
yes. And so, not cool at all what they're doing. And so I said, okay, not. So we said that we would move. We looked into a few places, and in Europe we found two tax havens. One
Okay.
was Portugal and one was
Okay.
Romania. And
Right.
so we decided to come to Romania. We are by car 3 hours away from Budapest, so we can fly anywhere we want on the world, more or less. And here we income tax is 0%, so you don't pay any
Oh,
income tax.
oh wow.
Um,
Okay.
for example, if you and there are different types of taxes. So, for example, you can have um, dividend tax. So, if you own businesses and you pay yourself dividends,
Yeah.
that's 8%, right? Which is much, much lower because there's
Yeah.
no income tax, remember. So you pay the dividend tax for
Mm-hmm.
pulling dividends, which is 8%, and then nothing else
That's it.
on top of that. And
Right.
then if you have real estate, so you're giving, like you're renting things, the tax there is 10%, right? So
Not
very,
so
very good
bad. Yeah.
economy, very, very
Yeah.
good. We love it. And so everything we need is here. There are hospitals, clinics, amazing roads, amazing infrastructure, very good, malls and, IKEA and everything you would need. Everything is here. So, and the weather is so much better than in the UK. So,
Is it like maybe temperature slightly higher than the UK?
so in
Or is it colder?
Romania,
Romania,
no, in
it's
Romania
supposed
you
to.
have all four seasons still. So
Okay.
during summer it gets very hot to the point like you go outside and you're sweaty, like it's
Sweating.
really like you would go onto the Mediterranean. So it's very hot. And during winter it's very cold and it's snowy, right? Similar to the UK,
Mm,
maybe a
mm.
little bit colder. And so you have spring and autumn in between, right? But otherwise summer here lasts maybe 5 months, something like that,
Oh, okay, that's long.
more or less.
Yeah.
So 5 months of good weather.
Yeah.
Worst case you get four. Worst case you get four. But let's say you get around 5 months. In the UK you don't really have that. You have okay weather, but many times it's cloudy. Almost all the time
Ah,
it's cloudy.
like
Rarely it's
gloomy.
not cloudy. Gloomy, yes, exactly. It's many times it's gloomy. But it's not like, the British can do anything about it. That's the island weather that they
Beyond the
have in,
control. Yeah.
exactly in the north of the planet. So like if you go to the Netherlands, it's very similar, right? And or if you go to Iceland, it's worse, right? It's
Yeah.
colder, it's gloomier, and so on. So it's like the more you go towards the north, that's what happens. So it has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with where they are on the planet, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's it.
And however the country is run is not being very helpful to you and your
Not at all.
businesses. So that's
No.
why you got to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so what was it like growing up as Robert Indries? Can you share us about your childhood?
So when we were young, we were born in, I was born in a maternity in a city of around 10,000 people. But the first years of my life, I was basically brought up in in and around the village. So we have a village where my parents are from, that has like 2,000 people population. I spent a lot of time on the farm. We're, feeding chicken, walking cows, working the land. If you wanted milk, you had to go milk the cow. If you wanted fruits, you had to go pick apples or whatever was in season. Our
Wow.
neighbors had watermelons at times. Other neighbors had cherries. Cherries are still my favorite. We we would when we were very young, we would go steal cherries. We would climb in cherry trees and eat as many as we can and then run.
And go.
And so those were my favorite, I remember. And then um, we learned the value of work, which for me is incredibly important. So let's say you would wake up at 6 a.m. or whatever, you would then, no technology, by the way. We had no phones, no computers, no nothing. If you wanted to talk to someone, you had to go to them to
To
talk
the
to them,
house.
right? If they
Yeah.
needed something from you, they had to come to you. So this meant that whenever you would talk would be valuable because you actually had to go to somewhere to relay a message. You wouldn't
Yeah.
just text back and forth or talk uselessly on hour for hours, right? And
Yeah.
so uh, er, talks were more meaningful, relationships were more meaningful, and so I really learned the value of waking up early, getting to work immediately, and then going to bed at whatever 10, 11, and you would basically be engaged in activity from the moment you wake up until the moment you went to sleep. We would help in cutting wood for fire. We would help with building something if we had to build something. We would help our neighbors with agriculture when they would ask us, like for example, I still have a lot of memories. And at one point, one of my friends asked me, "Hey, my parents made me do this for the rest of the day. Could you please come help me so I'm not alone and we
I'm
do it
not,
together?"
yeah.
I'm like, "Sure." You never thought twice. I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Like we had what
Yeah.
we had to do. There's corn, right? And corn comes on the cob, like it's tied
Yeah.
to the cob. So
Yeah.
what we had to do, there was this apparatus. You had to keep doing this, and you would put the corn in, and it would basically remove all of the
Pull
bits
the like
from
the
it.
the thing for popcorn, right? That
Yes, yes,
that
exactly.
kernel. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it would pull the corn itself off the cob, and it would, put the cob aside. So
Uh,
we had like, I'm not exaggerating, maybe 2 tons of corn, right? And then we just had to
what?
keep doing that for hours
Really
and hours.
by hand?
Yes, yes, you do it by hand. Yes, yes,
Oh
exactly.
wow.
And you still do
Okay.
it by hand. Only businesses do it automatically, right? And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we would do that by hand, right? And many times, and this was a lucky story when we had the device, many times you had to use your hands. So you literally would do this for
Oh my
hours on
goodness.
end to pull the corn
Oh.
off of the cob. And then you throw away the cob, you get another one. And you would do this with your hands to pull everything off and then throw away.
Wow.
So we did a lot of that, like so many
Okay.
things. Yeah, my hands are
I
quite
I
rugged.
never.
You can't see, but you know.
Okay, I think I had a pretty good life because my parents never made me do it. I'm older. They didn't give me. I didn't come from riches as well.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, but I'm really I give honor and respect to people who actually started from that.
Mm.
Yeah. So there you were saying, and then the cobs, and then
Yeah, yeah. So that was my upbringing, then kindergarten, and so on and so forth. So uh, very normal for poor people or whatever, just
simple,
yeah, exactly. No, nothing complicated. We went to
average.
public schools, everything went normal. Bullying was there, everything was there, just normal stuff, so nothing really special. And but I never felt need, we got love, and I'm incredibly
Yeah,
grateful that I still
yeah,
have both of my parents. I was born with two parents. Both
yeah.
of them loved me. Both of them took care of me, right? So they didn't have time during the day, so they would leave me alone for the majority of the day, but I would see them in the morning and I would see them in the night. And so whenever I would see them, they would be happy to see me, I would be happy to see them, right? And so we had a roof we had food, right? Yes, maybe sometimes you would eat very little in a day, but as children, you don't really think about that. You only think about,
Yeah.
okay, what am I gonna do?
Playing,
How am I
yeah.
gonna have fun
Or
today? Exactly.
yeah.
So it was cool. The only one other thing that I remember is that the first time I had new clothes,
New
or that
clothes.
my parents bought me new clothes was when I was 14. Until then, I
Uh,
only had secondhand clothes. So we would go to
hand me
secondhand
down.
shops, hand-me-downs. Exactly.
Yeah.
We would wear
I
those.
had that too when I was
Yeah,
a kid. My
yeah,
parents would not say, okay, you're gonna
yeah,
outgrow the clothing, so we'll
yeah, yeah,
just buy the cheaper version.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah, so we really learned the value of working and then
yeah.
making something out of ourselves. So yeah. So so that was your childhood. So when did
Mm,
you actually how did you progress from that? Did you move to a city? And then I also saw in your profile you started traveling, and
mm,
traveling was your advantage. Can you
mm.
share us what was the journey? How did that journey unravel for you?
Sure. So when I was young, at home we had a lot of rules, and I never liked rules, not even when I was young. For some reason, it
Similar.
just it wasn't
Okay.
wasn't for me. So I wanted to leave my house, and when I was 14, I left, and I went to a city
When you
that's
got your new
was
clothes, you left.
yeah, yeah, no. So my mom bought me new clothes because I was going
Oh,
to high school,
because you're
but
leaving. Okay, you're leaving home
yeah,
for the first time. Okay.
yeah, but I didn't leave on the best terms, right? So
Ah,
my father
okay.
disagreed and so on, and so I had to work jobs
Support
to make
yourself.
money for myself, and so I we got all types of weird jobs when I was 14, as you can imagine. But I did find jobs, which is good. My my father, I believe, was sending me $12 a month. That's about it. Something like that. Something,
Which year
that
was this?
a while ago, but it was still not a lot of money. Don't think it was a small
Yeah,
amount of money.
yeah, yeah.
So
I
he would
am
send me
working
$12.
$12 a month.
Yes,
That's yeah,
yes,
okay.
yes. Every month I would get $12, and my mom would give me some money, and then I had a place to stay, so I didn't have to pay rent. But still, I wanted to make my own money. I wanted more stuff. I wanted clothes. I wanted a computer. I wanted
Exactly. We
whatever,
wanted anything that we can
Yeah,
lay our eyes on.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I wanted things, and I worked for that, and then at one point I started traveling, and traveling showed me that there's a lot of cool projects out there, that there are a lot of amazing people out there, very passionate about what they do. It showed me that I don't need to be confined to one place on the planet, that the planet is very vast and I could live, work, and enjoy life anywhere I want. Um, it showed me how different cultures work. For example, when I was relatively young, I went to Siberia to work there in a Russian company, and I worked there for a few months, and then they sent me home to work from home because I could. So my job was digital, so I could do anything on the computer. So I didn't need to use office space. So I worked from home. And that was my first remote job, right? And so that was amazing because I was making a lot of money when I was young, and I was working from home. I would do whatever I want all day.
This is life. Yeah.
So I really
That is
enjoyed
the
it.
life.
Yeah, and then I realized that I want to do more of this, and so um, eventually, after many, like I always wanted to work for others, but after many disappointments, I started my own company, and was running that. Obviously, I had no idea what I'm doing, so I didn't make any money for 3 years. It was very difficult. I lost all of the money I had saved up until now. Until then, I had tens of thousands of dollars. I spent all of them on other people's salaries and whatever else. And then eventually, in year 4, I started making a significant amount. But I went from zero to $700,000 or something like that in year four because I finally figured out how to make money. You
Whoa.
know, took me three
Okay.
years, but then I finally said, this is how you do it. Okay, perfect. And then I did that, and so it worked. And so then finally, I made my first million by the time I was 25. So that was
Wow.
good. And then not long ago, we passed 10 million in revenue. So it was very good. And
Congratulations.
thank you. And so it's been a journey, right? It's a lot of lessons, a lot of failures, a lot of successes, of course, as well. And I didn't know why it's so hard. I didn't understand because everyone online makes it look so easy. And because that's what they sell, they sell it, they sell their courses, they sell everything, but it's incredibly difficult. And just so you get an idea, so I managed to become, I'm fortunate enough to have become or to have made over $1 million by the time I was 25.
Mm.
And if you look at stats, statistically speaking, 96% of businesses never break $1 million in
Never, yeah.
revenue.
Never
Never.
make it. Never even
96.
touch. My
Exactly,
gosh.
96%, right? And so already at 25, passing the $1 million mark, right? I was already, right?
Yeah.
And so imagine in anything you think of, whether that's basketball, whether that's, business, whether that's anything you can think about. If you think on a global scale, to be in the top 3%, because now we're in the top 3% or 2%,
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
it's very difficult because
Yeah.
you're competing against everyone, right? So when
Exactly.
you go to the Olympics, how many people do you remember from an Olympic game? One person, the winner, maybe the
Yeah.
other zero point 0.2 and zero point 0.3. But
Yeah.
there are 100,000 people trying to do
To
that year,
yes.
at
Yes.
least
That year
100,000,
itself.
right?
Yes.
So if you look at the games of basketball or football or anything, right? How many names do you know, like Messi or Ronaldinho or whatever, Ronaldo, right?
Mm.
How many do you know? Maybe you know 10 names, right? Okay.
Yeah.
At any point in time, there are tens of millions of people wanting to be there, right? Tens of millions of people. You only know the 10
Yeah.
names in that field. So this is the reality of how difficult it is. People believe that, or for some reason, and this is the reason why, because they make it so so believable, right?
Yeah.
The
They make it like
gurus
any
of
Tom,
today.
Dick, and Harry can
Yeah,
achieve
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like just give me $500 for this course or five thousand
And I'll
dollars or
make you.
whatever, and
Yeah.
and I'll help you, right? And you'll do what you need to do. And but it's difficult. And so I'm not saying this to discourage people. I'm saying this because it's better to have, right, the correct perspective, because your self-worth will be attached to your shoulds, your coulds, your woulds, right? So if you
Mm.
say I should be more by now. Well, guess what? You're not. So to
Yeah.
attach your worth to fiction will not help you, right? If you want to feel worthy, then you need to say, okay, this is what I was able to do until now. What can I do from now on, right? Like,
On.
what's my next step? What can I learn? What can I do differently? And so on and so forth to get to the next level. Reality
Yes.
is the only um, solid ground you can step on. Anything that's fiction, like how you would like to be or how you would like the world to be,
Yeah.
that does not help you. I'm sorry. It doesn't help you, right? However you think or whatever excuses you have that people don't buy this anymore or the industry changed or whatever, guess what?
Yeah.
Those are nothing other than excuses. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to
That
be
is
the
so
bearer of bad
true.
news, but if
That is so
you
true.
have not succeeded, the only person responsible for your success and failure is you,
Is you. Yeah.
because you have the same 24 hours, just like me, just like Bill Gates, just like Jeff Bezos, just like Nicolette, just like anyone. We all have the exact same time, right? And most of the people that are billionaires
Yeah.
were very uh, not very, but they're incomparably poor when they started off, right? If you look at Bill Gates, if you look at all of these guys, right, they're normal families, normal small families, right? Let's say, Bill Gates was in a family where his father was a professional, his mom was in the right networks, and so on and so forth. But you don't need to be worth $250 billion, right? Let's say you make a
Yeah.
hundred times less, you would still be
Yeah.
worth $2.5 billion,
$1 billion.
right? If
Yes.
you're 1,000 times less than him, you'll still be worth 250 million, right?
Mm.
And so your upbringing isn't 1,000 times worse than his. Let's say it's 10 times worse than his. So if
Yeah.
you take that 10 times less upbringing and turn it into 10 times less wealth by the end of your life, that means you should be at 25 billion by the end of
Billion
your
dollar
life,
at
right?
least.
So
Yeah.
exactly. So if you just take simple maths, right, this is the reality. Now, not the world is not does not work on math, right, as such. I believe it does because I'm an engineer, but there is luck involved, right? There's very a lot of other things, timing and so on and so forth. So, as such, whatever your reality is, take responsibility for it, because if you do not, if you blame others, the economy, the whatever, the pandemic, yourself, it doesn't matter. If you blame, if you point fingers at anything else other than
Yeah.
yourself,
Yeah.
that means that you're giving away power, because you
Oh,
only
that's so
hold
true.
power if you take responsibility. It is the only way to hold power. Otherwise, you give away power. You say, I'm not where I am because of the economy.
Da da da
Okay,
da
so
da.
so
Yeah.
the economy has power over you. Is that
Yes.
true? Well, you say yes. As long as you believe
No.
that, then your
Yes.
self-worth will be less, right? You will not believe that you deserve riches, because you always believe that the economy is or guides me, or whatever,
It's
however the
attacking
economy
me.
goes, right?
Yeah.
And so that's everyone, by the way. Statistically speaking, everyone thinks like this. So the reason why I bring this up is because I've been fortunate enough to help thousands of professionals until now, and I see the patterns of what they're struggling with. And this is the main one, or one of the main ones. And so if you look at how they're or how this train of thinking goes, if I give my power to something else, like for example the economy, that means it's stronger than I am, that means that I'm worth less. Okay, let me give you
Yeah.
something else. What if you would create your own economy? What if, whilst
Yes.
everyone is going down in the economy, you find an opportunity to go up? Let me
Yeah.
tell you something else. Statistically speaking, over
Mm-hmm.
70% of wealth is generated whilst in a crisis. During crisis
Yeah.
is when wealth is
You
made,
make the
because
money.
during
You
crisis
the
things
most.
have to shift. And when things have to shift, if you do things differently or better or whatever, you'll stay in business. Anyone that's mediocre will go out of business, right? And so that is how wealth is made. Most of it, 70% of it. 30% is made on good times, because it's prosperous times, it's good times. So even people that are mediocre can make wealth for themselves. Typically, it's made through times of turmoil, financial turmoil, or war or whatever, things of that nature, which we've been in for like 5 years now. So many people have
Yeah.
become rich during these 5 years, right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly. It's like
yeah.
when I see them, I don't even know whether it's real richness or, this term called um old money. I don't even know which one is which, but whatever that you said, I echoed it because I've been reading some of the statistics, and I come from finance and accounting background as well. Besides doing podcasts, I have a 9 to 5. So it that is so true. In the words of uh our forefather Warren and Tony Robbins, yes, you make the most, or Ray Dalio, you make the most when it's
Mm,
crisis, because everybody is fearful at the time.
mm,
Yeah. So okay, Robert, you seem very, very, very you have very good insights about what's happening. Can you share with us a little bit about what is it that you have on your hands right now? I've seen you have businesses, you have your own holdings. What else do you have? What type of business or investment you have at the moment? I mean,
So,
nothing confidential. Something that you're
no.
okay to
So,
share. Yeah.
I just have one project that's confidential for which I'm raising
Okay.
investment right now. Um,
Okay.
I don't know if anyone on this call is looking to on like listening is looking to invest, but obviously they can email me and I can tell them
Yeah,
details, right, if
exactly.
they're looking. But I'm very excited because that venture can. I mean, I've been crunching the numbers for weeks. I'm an engineer, so like you, I look at all of the numbers, right? It's for me, it's zero or it's one, right? Am I gonna
Yeah.
make money like crazy or not? And so this one is has the potential to make hundreds of millions a year. So I am very,
Wow.
very, and I've been crunching the numbers again for weeks, and I really love it. So I want to go in that direction. So I will be looking for investments starting maybe this week. I don't know when this podcast will go live, but probably, yeah, I'll be in the process, or maybe have even raised by the time someone listens. So excuse me if you didn't get there,
You're
but
off. Yeah, you're not on the bandwagon.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
last year, for example, we started the company around mid-year, and we launched it. And then in the
Hmm.
first 2 months, we passed a quarter million in for the
Wow.
business. And then by the at the end of month two, we already got a buyout offer as a strategic acquisition from someone, and by the end of month three, it was already sold. And the end number is an eight-figure, number, but cash on hand was seven figures at the time. So it was great. It was a very good payday for myself and the co-founders. So after that, we focused on other things. So right now, for example, we just launched a business. So again, I'm raising for one that
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about publicly yet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that I think can be 10 times bigger than the other company that we sold last
That
year.
yeah, you
So
sold
it's
off.
much, much
Wow.
larger and can be much more valuable as a business asset. And so this one that we just launched, we've been working on for a long time, almost 2 years, and it's a company to help businesses manage themselves better. So
Hmm.
it's basically a business process optimization tool, which helps you finally, document all of your procedures, have all of your systems in one place, have people follow, step by step the way you want them to follow and do the work and so on. Time tracking is included by default. Every time they do something, it's tracked. And so, like, everything is in one place, which has never been created before. I realized that I've had the opportunity to work with 300 businesses until now, over 300. And those businesses, I helped them generate over $500 million in value for themselves, right? And so, something that I can tell you that statistically speaking, not 50%, not 10%, not even 5%, but 0% of those businesses in 300 had all of their procedures documented and people following procedures when they were working, right? Just
Yes.
no one does it, statistically speaking. So
Yes.
only enterprise does it well, and very rarely small businesses. But most of the times it's enterprise that does it. And why is that? Because if you want to procedurize your business technically from an infrastructure perspective, and I'm not talking about documents outlining
Yeah.
procedures or boxes with arrows or whatever. Yeah, yeah, you can have those. It's great, and you should have them in your business by now. However,
Hmm.
I'm talking about when someone does a task, they have to do step one, then step two, then step three, then by step four, it goes to someone else in another department that they have to do their stuff, and then it comes back to another, and so on. So I'm talking about that level of systematic and strategic approach to your business. You could only have access to that as an enterprise company, because only enterprise companies can afford to pay between $2 to $20 million for SAP or Accenture or Ernst and Young
Yeah.
or these big guys, Deloitte, to come
Yes.
and do those for you. Otherwise, you
Yes.
would not be able to do
Yes.
that. So if 96% of companies never make it to $1 million, then guess what? 98% of companies never have systems properly built in
In
their
place.
business. So we said,
Mm,
okay, let's build the platform to help companies do that. So we just launched that a couple of weeks ago. It's called Alvanda. I can give you the link after the call. But
please
basically, if
do.
anyone goes to alvanda.com, we have a free trial and everything, so they could take a look. But basically, it helps you put everything there. Even your org chart can be there, and it's functional. So when you invite someone, it's not like inviting them to Asana or Basecamp or Trello, whatever, where they just have access to anything or any project or whatever. You literally, if you hire someone in a sales role and someone else in an accounting role, the sales role sees the sales collateral and the contracts and whatever they need to see. The accountant sees the invoices, they see the financial document.
Wow.
They only see what they need to
Really?
see in the business
At one
automatically. Yeah.
at one place?
Yeah. Everything is in one place, but they only
Wow.
see what they need to see. So
Okay.
basically, that's already separated, right? So we've been working on this for 2 years. It's very difficult to do. I was wondering why no one did it. Now I know why no one did it. So I
Yeah.
thought it's going to be, I don't know, 100 grand and, 6 to 8 months and I'll be done. $500,000 later, right? And 2 years later, we barely have something that we can release. We released it and we already onboarded, I think, like 6 or 7 companies. We got feedback. We're implementing the feedback. So it's very cool. It's moving along, chugging along. People are signing up. They're using it. And so anyone that signs up obviously can give us feedback and then we will implement it to make sure it's good for them, right? The tool. So very cool. I'm very excited about that. It's going well. So we'll see how it goes moving forward.
Alvenda, yeah?
Yeah,
Alvenda. Okay. I will
Alvanda. Yeah,
I will be checking that out.
sure.
So did you have like your own team to develop it?
So as you read, I have 8 businesses at the moment. So we used to have 10, but we sold two. And so
Uh,
we one of those businesses is an engineering company. And so
okay.
whenever we need to build anything, my engineering company can build it. Another company that I own is a marketing company. So whenever we need to market something, I have my marketing company. You could just, you know, grow it. So
Clever.
it's
So
I
you
have
had
a
all of the best functions under your
yeah,
helm, under your wings, and then
we
whenever
have
you have
recruitment,
something,
for example.
no
So we
way.
do that. Yes, we have a recruitment company. We have an operations company, a management company that manages the holdings company you're
So
talking about.
BPO, do you have a
BPO,
BPO?
yes, exactly. We do management. So anyone that wants us to manage their
And
company for them, we could just manage it for them. Yeah. Yeah.
okay, now I know. Now okay, now I'm getting the hang of it. Like
Yeah.
how do you okay.
Yeah.
So you have I saw in your website you have a book, Time Management and
Yeah.
Productivity Strategy.
Yeah.
Can you let us in on a secret about that?
Sure. So I've so far written a few books. Um,
Okay.
One of them we launched, I believe, last year. It became an Amazon bestseller in its category, number one. It stayed number one for 55 days. So it was very cool, very cool. And then another one of my books is coming out, I think, in the first quarter of next year. And then another book is coming out in the third quarter of next year. So it just, they have these time frames. I don't know why, but publishers have these. So we have publishing deals, and then it just takes 9 months. It's like making a baby. I don't know why, but it takes a long time for them to do everything that they need to do. And so we have those deals. We got signed on by our publisher, so that was cool. And in terms of the book that I'm basically giving away for free, the number one best time management and productivity strategy. It talks about, I can give you the gist of it.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about a event where there was this person. His name was Ivy Lee, and it talks about how he was a consultant many years ago. to one of America's biggest companies, and I talk about everything in the book. And so they hired this guy to teach them how to be more productive and more effective with their time. And
Mm.
so he went in, he looked at everything, and then he told them what they need to do. And the system was incredibly simple, very, very simple. So he gave them the system, and then they said, okay, how much should we pay you? Right?
Yeah.
And he said, don't pay me anything. Use the system. And in a few weeks or in a month, whenever, after you've tested the validity of the system, pay me however much you think it's worth. And so they went on, they started using the system. A few weeks after that, the guy, and this was a long time ago, gets a check for $10,000, which is the equivalent today of $500,000. Imagine. So he got hundreds of thousands of dollars, but without putting the price. The guys literally
Yeah.
believe this is so valuable and it's making them so much money that here's this amount, right? And so
Yeah.
six figures they paid for that piece of advice. And I can tell you
Wow.
it's very simple, but people won't follow it. 90% of the people listening sadly won't follow it because, they have their limiting beliefs. But it is what it is. I'm going to tell you regardless. Take it or leave it. This is what I use. And so you can use my strategy or not. Um, every day you write down your priorities, right? And so you write down up to six priorities: number one, number two, number three. You write them in the order of what will leave the most positive impact on your business in terms of, typically it's money, right? Like what will make me the most money. And
Mhm.
so typically posting on Facebook does not make you money. So obviously it would never be a number one, right?
Yeah.
Reaching out to potential clients so you get more business, that can be a number one. Or doing a proposal for someone or whatever, right? So these things can be number one. Obviously, your level of effectiveness is also based on how honest you are with yourself, right? Because many people are able to go for years working on stuff that does not matter, right? They're working on their website and their business cards and their whatever, like they work on all of this nonsense. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
saying you shouldn't get a website. I'm saying that if you are making no money, just start making money. It's just like stop focusing on the website and start getting clients or whatever.
Yeah.
Start selling your product. And so basically, you write down your things in order of priority. Like, so what is the highest impact possible is number one, and then number two, three, four. And then when you wake up, you start working on number one. And
Mm.
then you do not work on anything else until you finish number one. You have to finish the first task. Doesn't matter what
Mm.
happens, you finish the first task. Only after that could you do anything else. And so you finish the first task. When you're done with task number one, then you do task number two. When you're done with task number two, then you do task number three, and so on. Because you've already made the decision of what's more important. So you can't start with number one and then say halfway through, let me do number four because it goes quickly. No, you do not allow yourself. You have to finish number one. Only after that can you go to number two, and so on. So you keep doing that. And so people would say, okay, but maybe I never get to number six. Well, the only thing you need to
Maybe they
do,
have priority.
exactly, the only thing you really need
Yeah.
to do is know your priorities and work on
Mm.
your priorities, on your top priorities every single day. That's the only thing you need to do. If you're able to do that every single day when you work, you will achieve 10 to 100 times more than anyone else that's wasting their time working on priority number 12 and 4 and 8, right? It is what it is. You're either focused on your number one priority and getting it done, or you're
Mm.
not. So it's a very simple thing. I explain all of it in the book. Obviously, people can ask for it on my website. If they search for my name, they'll find it.
Mm.
But it just explains the story and everything in more detail. But that's the gist of
I felt called out by you
it.
because I mean I am guilty of that. I do have my
Everyone is.
priorities, and then at midday I get into the habit of, okay, checking out what about the rest. Oh, I only have half a day to complete the rest, or maybe, yeah, a little bit more than half a day. And then I start, oh, panicking. I start completing. priority number five, which is
Hmm.
definitely not bringing me value as number one. So yeah, I think it's the awareness, catching yourself, come back to number one, finish it, and then only. Okay. Thank you for that, Robert. Okay, so you said you have worked on, I think, at least 200 projects under your belt at the moment. What were some of the most notable ones that you have worked on and the most impactful? Maybe in terms of monetary or
Yeah.
in terms of the lives you
S-
change,
Yeah.
etc. Yeah.
So you're correct. We've successfully delivered on over 200 projects in over 19 sectors. What I can tell
19
you,
sectors. Okay. Okay.
yeah. Everything from aerospace and defense to retail to,
My goodness.
healthcare, tourism, 19 different sectors, anything you could think of, we've done automotive and so on. So, um, I I'm not as aware of everything because at one point you need to let go.
Yeah.
I personally can do 200 projects. We as a team
Yeah.
have done over
Definitely.
200 projects, right? So, for
Yes.
example, I'll give you a very pertinent example. The other
Mm-hmm.
day, I personally met with one of our engineers that I
Mm-hmm.
personally hired 7 years
Mm.
ago or something like that, like a long time ago. And so I hired this guy, and then we just went out because we're friends for since then, and we went for lunch. And I was like, "What are you working on right now?" And they tell me about the project. I'm like, "And what do you think?" I'm like, "Robert, it's so cool. It does this and it does that, and we have thousands of people using it, and so on." And I was literally thinking, like, imagine how much good we're doing in the world at any point in time, right? Because I didn't even know what they're working on. I have
Wow.
no idea because I'm so far removed from,
Yeah.
the day to day. I don't do hiring anymore. I don't do finance, right?
Yeah.
I don't do this stuff. I look at the books, but someone else
Yeah.
prepares the books, right? Someone else
That's right.
works on the contract. Someone else does these things. And so I just review things. And so
Yeah.
when he told me and he was so excited, about the project and, he's been working on it for years
Mm.
and I really enjoyed it. It was so cool. The vibe was cool. And so I can't tell you which one has the most impact. What
Okay.
what I can tell you is that the way we choose who to work
Mm.
with, number one, the most important thing is, does it make the world a better place? So
Mm.
we do not take on projects if they do not
Mm.
make the world a better place somehow, even if it's as simple as providing jobs for others, right? So if you're not a scammer, if you're really in the business of providing value to people, whether through products or services, it's very important, that you do so ethically, that, we run good business and so on and so forth. Because if we succeed in working together, you'll create 10 jobs, 20 jobs, 50 jobs, however many jobs for people, right? And so, even if we just stay at that level of creating jobs, we're happy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it creates jobs for people and they enjoy themselves, they sustain their family, and so on and so forth. So I think, again, overarching, if we look at that, so the biggest projects we've closed was, I think, 2.5 million for one project, just one, and it was a very cool project there. Other projects we've closed, for example, at whatever, $1 million. And so the first one I mentioned was to build
Yeah.
robots, and so
Robot.
that's cool. Another one was to build a new office, but not physically, but with people. So
Oh,
they were hiring us as sort of the BPO consultant to
right.
hire everyone, to make sure they're
Get
trained up,
everything
they're
in
following process
place.
and so on. Yeah, because they wanted to expand to Chicago, so we were going to help them with that.
Mm.
And so that was $1 million project to set up offices for them in Chicago, and so on and so forth. So cool things like this, that we are able to do. We have smaller projects as well that we take on sometimes, whatever, 25 grand, 50 grand. They're rare because people tend to not be able to work with us at that level,
Yeah.
right? If
Yeah.
you're very, very young
Mm-hmm.
in your business journey, you tend to
Yeah.
only be able to afford consulting from us,
That's right.
which
That's
consulting
right.
can take you from 50 grand a year to 500,000 a year, right? And so on. So just consulting can grow you. It's just
Yeah.
that's why it's a small project. They only pay for consulting. So we teach them basically what they need to do. We advise them. They come to us with
Mm.
questions. And I do very little consulting now, just for some people that I really like. But and by the way, if you're if you reach out and I'm going to say I don't want to do consulting with you, it's not because I don't like you. It's just I have other things to do, right? And so
Yes.
when I say people I
Again,
like, it's like
priorities.
friendships, like I have friendships and then I have them. But yes, priorities, exactly. So someone paying me, you know, 25 grand a year for me to do consulting with them, an hour a month, uh, it's less on my priorities list. It's priority number 15, right? And priority number one is to send an email to 10 potential investors, right? Or to send
Exactly.
10 emails to 10 potential investors so that I speak to five of them. And so one of them will be interested to invest, right? And so
Yeah.
that activity of sending 10 emails, having five conversations, closing one, that can make me $1 million. So I'm
That's
going to
true.
focus on that because I need 50 consulting clients to make $1 million and so much
Yeah.
more of my time. Imagine
Yeah.
how much more of
Yeah.
my time I need to put in consulting to be able to do that. So that's basically it. I'm just saying that with that, what happens is people would come to the calls and they would have like 30 questions. And so they would
Yeah.
just bombard me with questions, like, how do I do this? And I tell them, okay, what about this? And I tell them, what about this? And I tell them, right? And so, so many, like, they're very tiring for me because they come and they bombard me with questions because they're paying, right now it's, I think 2,000 an hour or whatever that we charge, or 2,000 something an hour. So they want a lot of value for that hour, and it's in their
Yeah.
interest, obviously. And I
Of
love
course.
that they're prepared because otherwise I would,
Yeah.
be bored. But
Yeah.
they really, like, I need to think. Okay, well, in this case you should do this. Okay, what about this? Well, in that case you should do this, right? And I literally tell them what they need to do. So I remove all of the bottlenecks in that half an hour or in that hour, right? All of the bottlenecks are removed, and they could just, uh, go much quicker than otherwise.
Wow. Okay. Yes. Okay, Robert. Thank you.
Of course.
We're going to go a bit technical on the business side. Yeah, I'm not gonna take a lot more of your time. A few more questions. Um, there's one this that was very apparent in your Podmatch profile. How do we double our business in 12 months? This is for all
Mm,
the listeners who are also entrepreneurs out there, like
yeah,
practical advice that they can try it and then put it on practice.
of course. So just so you get an idea, the how to double your business in 12 months is a seminar I hold in 3 hours, right? So the 4 minutes left, or however many minutes left of the podcast, will not be enough. I'm sorry for anyone listening.
Okay.
Not even close.
Okay.
Maybe if we would have started with that, like, we would
With
have had
that,
a good
okay.
chance. But I can't even tell you, not even the beginning of it. The
Okay.
only thing, the two things I can tell you maybe is number one, 80% of your success is mindset, and if you don't
Yeah.
believe
True.
that, not you have not done enough research on how the world works, and so people much dumber than you have made so much more money than you. It's mindset. And when I say
Mm.
mindset, I'm not talking about woo woo, you know, the secret, or dream it and it's gonna happen, or
Yeah.
positive thinking and so on. No, 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 not about that. What I'm
Okay.
talking about,
Okay.
the difference in mental between a victim and a victor, right? And so this is the
Victim and
second thing.
victor.
So let me tell you a few differences. But basically, a victim finds excuses, right? They say, I haven't
Yeah.
done this because of X, Y, Z, whatever. They find excuses. A victor finds solutions. They say, okay,
Mm.
this is reality. This doesn't work. Let me see why it didn't work. Let me see what I can do next time to do better,
To make it
right?
work. Yeah.
Do an analysis, right? An after action report, you can call it whatever. It's in the military, that's how it's called, an after action report. Or so this was the action we took. So after the action,
Post-mortem.
what's the report, right? A post-mortem,
Yeah.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So you basically do an analysis of what happened, why did it go wrong, what could we have done better, and what are we going to do next? And you do
Mm.
that. You have a limited amount of energy and brain power. So if you focus on finding excuses, by default, you're wasting your time because you should be focused on solutions, right? With the exact same amount of time, you can focus on solutions. So that's one. Another thing is that victims tend to assign blame, right? I didn't succeed because Nicolette got the books wrong. I didn't succeed because, I don't know, I had to take care of my cat. I didn't succeed because I don't know what, who knows? Yes, exactly. Like, who knows what, like something. Like, they come up with stuff. I didn't succeed because my mom. I didn't succeed because my whatever, right? Blaming, that's the blame game. I'm sorry. So that's a victim. The victor takes responsibility. We've touched on this a little earlier in the podcast, right? So that's a very clear difference, right? And so
Yeah.
on and so forth. A victim doesn't have time, right? A
Victor
victor
makes time.
finds time, makes time, exactly, for what's important for them, right? Again, those priorities. Is my relationship to my gift from God, Diana, important to me or not? Is it yes or no? Number one, yes. Okay. Now it's a yes. Now I put it on the priorities list. More important than business, yes or no? Yes, up. More important than health, yes or no? Yes, up. For me, my
Yeah.
relationship with my wife is more important than my health. I've taken that, as I've just
Stand.
decided on
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah,
And
you
that's it.
decided on that. Yeah.
So I can tell you my values right now. Easy. Number one is resolve. Resolve, faith, whatever you want to call it, but my mental status, because I cannot be there for my wife, for my children, for my health, for my family, for my clients if I don't have high resolve. So that's number one. There's priorities. I have to have high resolve. If I said I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I don't care, right? So that's resolve, number one. Number two is family, which is Diana and, other people in my family. And then number three is my work. And then number four is my health. So my health is last.
Okay.
And it just is what it is. But I only have four priorities. I don't have 20. And I have 20 conflicting priorities. So even if my health is last, I still am much healthier than you are, with all due respect, right, to anyone listening, right? It's just, I care. I'm very conscious about what I eat, about what I do. I mean, I've had a six-pack for like 12 years now, I believe, or something like that, right?
Wow.
It's like I'm the most flexible person typically that you've met. I can run a marathon almost, right? I haven't run in a long time, but I can if I really want to. I'm relatively strong. I can do things, with a lot of weight. I have energy from 6 a.m. in the morning until 10 p.m. in the night, right? We function on less sleep and so on and so forth. It's just, I tend to be healthy. And so I'm not saying that I'm perfect. No, like, for example, yesterday, my wife and I had a kebab. I don't know if you've ever, it's like a Turkish thing. So
Yeah.
we had a kebab and we enjoyed it. And it had bread, which we almost never eat. And it had some sauces, which half of it is not healthy, right? And so on. But that doesn't mean that this morning our breakfast was apples and our lunch was lentil soup. And then our second course was some other legumes, vegetables, right? And so that's it. So the vast majority of the time we eat super healthy, right? And the lentil soup, very high in protein, 25% protein, right? So we ate a lot of soup. So our protein intake is high. Vitamins we got from the apples, right? Or other fruits, whatever is local in season. These are hand-picked apples, by the way, from trees in our garden, right? So very, very healthy, right? And so on and so forth. So things of this nature, even though my health is last, and many people say, hey, my health, in our country, for example, they say health is the most important thing. The same people that say that either drink alcohol, smoke, eat pizza every other day
Fast
or
food,
whatever,
yeah.
and so on. The same people that say that health is the most important thing. Well, why do you say it and not live it, right?
Yeah.
For me, I'm very honest. Health is my fourth priority every day, anytime I look at. If my wife calls me right now and
Mm-hmm.
says, Robert, I really need you right now. I say, Nicolette, sorry, let's do the podcast some other time. I really need to go. My wife needs me. Why? Because wife is more important than work, right? And then health, if for example I said, let me do a workout this morning, and then my
Yeah.
investor says, I can only have a chat with you
Make
at
it
6
this
a.m.,
morning.
right? And
Yeah.
like, I'm skipping my workout. I'm sorry. I've decided that
Yeah.
these are my priorities. And
Mm.
I'm so happy with my decision, right? Because I never beat myself up for not doing a workout, because I know the only time I wouldn't do a workout is if I would sleep
You
over
have
it because I'm
conflicting
too tired.
priorities with your, yeah.
Exactly. Or I'm spending time with my wife, or I'm working. That's the
Yeah.
only way I wouldn't do a workout. And all of those priorities are more important, because if you're sleep deprived, you can't do anything else well. So
Yeah.
if let's say I had to work until midnight or whatever, we had an event and we stayed like a wedding and we came home at 1, or we went to bed at 1, I'm going to do a workout at 6. I'm going to sleep until 7, right?
Yeah.
So to get my time in, and so on and so forth. So hopefully that helps.
Wow. Okay. Three more questions, Robert. I hope
Sure.
I can keep you for three more questions. So,
Okay.
how would you sum up the lessons that you have learned in your life and your business so far?
So a few, obviously this is not fair because there are many, but one thing is that um, everything is perspective. Again, everything is perspective. You do not realize that your entire life is your perspective. There is no such thing as the truth. It's your perspective of what happened. I
Mm,
can tell you
so true.
factually what happens in an engagement. I can also tell you factually many other things could have happened, or many other things, were in play or whatever. However, it's always your perspective. Number two, everything is your responsibility. Your
Mm.
successes, your responsibility. Your failures, your responsibility. Even if you had an accident, I'm sorry, it was your
Oof,
responsibility. Were
oof.
you there? Who was there? Who was there at that time on that day? You. You
Yeah,
had to be there. You chose to be there, right?
yeah.
So, did you choose to go skiing and you broke a leg? It's your fault, right? Did you choose to walk to wherever and then a car hits you? You chose to be there. If you don't understand that everything is your choice and it's your responsibility, you cannot become the best version of yourself. I'm sorry, because as long as you do not accept that responsibility, you will still think that there's something outside of you responsible for
Cause you
how your
to do
life
that.
goes. But it's not. Only you are. Yes, there is luck. Yes, there is timing. Yes, there is proximity, right? Someone born and raised in California, in the valley, right, by two rich parents, has more opportunities than you. Okay, whoop-de-doo. So what? You know, just stop talking about that. Do your thing. There's, for
Yeah,
example, a company in Romania, and you can do
yeah.
research on this. You don't need to take my word for it. It's called UXPath. Fastest
Mm-hmm.
growing company on the planet, multi-billion-dollar entity started by Romanians in Romania. That's
Wow.
it. One of the on the planet, fastest growing
Right
company.
now.
Right now, you have to look into it. Made billions, billions, right?
Wow.
And look at the names of the people at the top and all of the employees. You'll see they're Romanians, right? And I read them. Be easy for me to read. So for others, it's like they don't know what Nicolae Stoica, whatever. I don't know who it is, but I can very easily read the names. And so anywhere you are, it doesn't matter. You can do it, right? And there's so many other companies, so many examples. So again, you're responsible. You do what you need to do to get your things, in order. And then you mentioned Warren Buffett earlier.
Mm-hmm.
My high recommendation is people look at Warren Buffett. Check. There's so many cool things. I run all of my businesses on his principles, and so we can talk a lot about that some other time. But
Yeah.
basically, one of the principles is the rule of five of Warren Buffett. So do research on it, anyone listening, and you'll see it's amazing. It's an amazing story between Warren Buffett and his pilot, his personal jet pilot. And so he had a conversation with him about the rule of five. So
Mm-hmm.
look into that. And so be very clear on your priorities. That's the third thing. So Number one,
Mm,
everything is perspective. Number two, you need to take responsibility for everything. And number
responsibility.
three, have your priorities straight. If you do these three things, if you understand these and do them properly, you'll see that, your life, your business, your career, everything will skyrocket.
Okay. Do you believe failure is the mother of success?
Weird way to ask the question. Let me let me let me let me tell you what I believe. I believe that
Okay.
there is no such thing as growth without failure. True growth, big growth, significant growth without failure. Because let me explain why. It's very simple. It's maths. Again, the entire world is math for me. So
Yes.
basically, if you do something now, like let's say you want to build a business, okay, and let's say you're at 5 million right now, and you want to take that business to 50 million. True story. We've done this for other people in the past. So you want to take that $5 million business, turn it into 50. Okay, well, you've never done it before, right? So it's the first time you do it. So by default, the first time you ride the bike, you're gonna fall. The first time you write email copy, you're gonna write shitty email copy or mediocre email copy, right? The first time you're gonna learn how to swim, you're gonna swim, like a half dead cat. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna fail so much on the path. True growth, you becoming the person that owns a $50 million company and you built it, will require failure because you're pushing yourself beyond your limits. So by default, you will fail. And you won't fail because you're not good. You will fail because you are growing, right? And it just is what it is. So once you accept that, you're say, okay, well, let's fail forward. It's a concept, fail forward. Fail
Fail.
and then go forward. Fail and
Yes.
then go forward.
Fail.
Fail forward.
If you could create a quote right now that you can leave to the audience and the world as your legacy, what would it be?
Oh, come on, don't do that to me. I'm young still. There's so
Oh
many.
no, I mean as
Um,
in you're not living now, of course. It's just okay at this point of time.
yes.
Yes.
Quote, the most important thing in life is for us to learn to be truly happy. Most important. That's it. That's my quote. If you learn this one thing, there will be no more poverty. There will be no more wars. There will be no more conflict. Everyone would love one another because you would all be happy. Like you would not, if you learn to be happy, by the way, your happiness has nothing to do with anyone else. And if you
Yes.
believe it does, then again, you don't know how to be happy. So
Yes.
imagine if everyone would truly understand how to be happy from the inside, to just be happy. It doesn't matter what anyone else would say. If I would have a bad day, and I'd say, oh, damn this, and blah, blah, and so on and so forth, you would just say, Robert, I'm so sorry you feel that way. Can I make you some tea? And
Yeah.
that's it. You wouldn't get upset. You wouldn't, reflect anger. You wouldn't, continue. You would just say, oh, he's having a bad day. How can I soothe his day? How can I help him? If everyone would be happy, everything in the world, everything that's bad with the world would just go away. And that's it.
Okay. Well, that will sum up our podcast today. It's been a very, very great, interesting insight from you, Robert. I really appreciate it, and I think I would want to maybe connect with you again on some of the topics if that's
Sure.
agreeable. Yeah,
Of course. No problem.
I will be publishing this episode in the next few weeks' time. So
Sure.
about the investments, I think I will ask my listeners to come over to my Instagram or wherever, and then they can reach out to you. That's okay, right?
Sure. Yeah, if you know anyone, yeah, let me know. Send them
Yeah.
my way. I've been crunching the numbers for so long, it's crazy. They're all showing in the same direction, right? And I've
Okay.
showed them to a few people that really know what they're talking about. And they told me, Robert, these are very conservative. I can't believe these are the
Wow.
numbers. They're very conservative,
Conservative. Okay.
and they still get to, hundreds of millions. And I'm looking in 5 years, right? 5 to 6 years. And I'm looking, I'm like, wow. Okay,
Okay.
right? People much older than I, smarter than I, right? So, again, reach out to your audience, reach out to whomever you know in your network that has capital, right?
Okay.
I'm looking for investment, and this is relevant for me for the next few weeks. First come, first serve. I mean, like the first person that says, Robert, I love the idea, let's go. Here's, money. based on shares, how many shares they want. Then I just take it from there, fund the company, get the money in, and then start operating it.
Awesome. Okay,
Right.
sure. If I have, I will be sending them your way.
Please, please. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Robert, for your
See
time.
you.
See
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.